I am very excited for the release of Python 3.13. I probably haven't been this excited for a Python release since f-strings were added in Python 3.6. I'd like to share a few of my favorite features from 3.13, and I suspect that at least a few of these will become your favorites as well. First, I'd like to note that I'm not going to talk about the experimental free-threaded mode, the experimental just-in-time compilation option, or many other features that don't affect most Python developers today. Instead, let's focus on some of the more fun things. My favorite feature by far is the new Python REPL. Have you ever made a mistake while typing a block of code in the Python REPL? The old REPL had line-based history, so fixing that mistake required hitting the up arrow over and over. This was very tedious. In Python 3.13, we don't have to do all of this work. Instead, the new Python 3.13 REPL supports block-level history and block-level editing. So when you make a mistake in a block of code, you just hit the up arrow, navigate to where the mistake is, fix the mistake, and then hit enter. We've just edited a block of code. Block-level editing is definitely my favorite improvement in the new Python REPL. If you've ever tried pasting a class into the Python REPL, you probably found that as soon as the REPL encountered a blank line, it assumed that it should end the current code block. The easiest way to fix this is to remove all blank lines from your code, which is a really annoying thing to do just for the sake of pasting code into the REPL. The new REPL now knows when you're pasting code, and it does exactly what you would hope it would do. It just works. In addition to block-level editing and the ability to paste arbitrary code, the new REPL now has a history mode. Have you ever used the REPL to try something out, and then you decided you wanted to copy-paste that code into a Python file? When you copy-paste from the REPL, you'll get these prompts pasted as well. Those 3 greater than signs and 3 dots will come along with your code, which isn't super annoying. I mean, you can delete each of them, but it's a little bit annoying. Fortunately, the new Python REPL has a history mode that you can trigger by hitting the F2 key. History mode doesn't show those prompts, so you can paste your code just as you wrote it originally in the REPL. Those are my favorite features in the new Python REPL, but there are other niceties as well. For example, the prompt is now colored, and so are tracebacks. And when working with a block of code, you'll be auto-indented when moving to the next line. See, this colon indicates to Python that this next line should be indented. And notice this indentation is 4 spaces. When you hit the tab key in the REPL, it now inserts 4 spaces instead of a tab. And if you type exit in the REPL, it won't tell you to run the exit function. It'll just exit. So the new REPL in Python 3.13 on its own is a huge improvement, but it's not the only new feature. Virtual environments also changed in a very subtle but very handy way for those of us using Git to version control our code. In previous Python versions, whenever you created a new virtual environment within a Git repository, you would see that virtual environment's directory listed whenever you ran a git status command. To fix this, you needed to manually add virtual environment directories either to your project's gitignore file or a global gitignore file on your machine. With Python 3.13, you'll never need to gitignore a virtual environment ever again. Check this out. After you've made a virtual environment with Python 3.13, Git won't see it. This happens because the new virtual environment has its own gitignore file that ignores itself. As someone who teaches virtual environments along with Django and Git, I love this change. This will allow me to remove an important but confusing step in my curriculum, at least for folks on the latest version of Python. The Python debugger, PDB, also got 2 big improvements. If you've ever tried to set a breakpoint at the end of a code block, you may have noticed that PDB starts up just after the code block exits. For example, here's a function that's currently failing when we call it with specific files. Ultimately, we may want to update this code to provide more information about which file it's failing on. But for now, let's just catch the exception and then set a breakpoint so we can see which file it's failing on. When we set a breakpoint at the end of an except block, PDB starts up after the except block, which means the exception object has disappeared by the time the breakpoint is hit. And if we look at which line of code we're on, we're at the top of our for loop because this breakpoint isn't actually set inside the block, it's set after the block. If we run this same code in Python 3.13, PDB will now start up on the same line as the breakpoint. So adding a breakpoint to the end of a block of code works the way you would expect it to. We're able to take a look at the exception object without any problem. That's the first big improvement to the Python debugger. The second one is even better. Historically, any line in the PDB prompt that started with a PDB command would usually trigger the PDB command, instead of PDB interpreting this as Python code. But now, if the command looks like Python code, PDB will run it as Python code. That means that the built-in help function, the list function, the next function, and various other lines of Python code will work. This might seem like a small improvement, but wrestling with PDB when it thinks I wanted a PDB command instead of a Python statement is really frustrating, especially because when I'm in PDB, I'm usually already frustrated because something's broken with my code, and I don't know why. If you're excited about the new Python REPL, the fact that virtual environments are gitignore by default, or the new PDB improvements, go install Python 3.13 and try it out. And for the full list of what's new, check out the Python documentation.